Hey friends, it's Elizabeth here from the Everyday Storyteller, and I am back with week 4 in my 6x12 2023 Project Life album. So this week I went completely digital and I have my cards and journaling already printed out, as well as some embellishments that I may or may not use, and then also my photos. As you can see, I don't have a lot of photos for this week. I think I only had 4 really. Yeah, 4. So it's giving me a lot of room for journaling and also extra fun pocket page cards. So I'm really excited for that. I will put in a little snippet from my computer where I kind of walk you through what I did to alter these cards digitally in Photoshop. And I have a 6x12 template that I created for myself in Photoshop. This is a template that is a full 6x12 spread, so essentially 12x12. And I have just created a grid for myself to resemble my pocket pages with the 4x6s and then the 4x4s in the middle. And essentially the way that I start out is I just add my photos to this template, and then I try out some journaling cards. So I had a lot of room for journaling cards for this week in this spread since I only had a couple of photos. So I'm going to show you a little bit of how I edited the cards to create a more cohesive spread. So this is my original title card. This is from the Ali Edwards January Stories by the Month kit from 2023. As you can see, it's very dark. It's got a blue background, lots of reds, yellows, and shades of green, and I wanted to make it a little bit brighter. So I went ahead and brought it into my Photoshop template, and then I just used the colors over here in the For the Love 4x6 card. So I used my eyedropper tool to just grab the colors, and then the way that I did the way that I recolored this card was I just went ahead and used the paint bucket tool, and I just clicked on each one of the letters to make them a different color. So this gave me a little bit more creative freedom. I know that there's a lot of other ways to recolor digital elements in Photoshop, but this is the way that I do it and the way that I'm the most comfortable recoloring things like this. So this is my little way of recoloring digital elements, and it works really well for me. So that is that card finished. I also brought out this card from I believe that was from the Open Story kit, and I made sure that the pinks that I brought over in this beginning again in 2023 matched with the story card. And then I also used one of the 3x8 cards from the January 2023 Stories by the Month card and just resized it to fit into this 3x4 spot that I had down here. So that is what it looks like in Photoshop. Once I finish mocking it up, I will drag and drop each one of the elements to a new 8.5x11 canvas. This was the canvas that I created for my pocket page cards. I print these on regular cardstock. I will have the link in the description below. And then I also create another canvas for my photos where I just drag and drop my photos into frames. And I print this out on Epson Ultra Premium Glossy photo paper. And then I just go and print these out, and I am ready to get back to my craft desk. All right, so now that everything is printed and cut out, I'm going to start filling up my pocket pages. So as always, I start with the photos, but since I also had my journaling cards already finished, I just went ahead and filled everything up the way that I kind of had it mocked up in Photoshop. It does end up changing, which you're gonna see here in a second. Honestly, it took me a little bit to figure out how I wanted to put everything together. I felt like the layout was a little bit flat, so I went and looked in my chipboard and tried to stay with my January Stories by the Month chipboard subscription, which had some pieces that worked with the color scheme, but it wasn't quite what I was looking for. So you're going to see me try a couple of things. Any of these probably could have worked. I think I found a couple of circle chipboard that definitely would have done the job. But I really like what I end up coming up with here in a minute. So I end up looking through my Stories by the Month subscription from past years and found a 4x6 card that I had forgotten about. And I decided to kind of switch gears. And I'm going to go live here in a second after I finish cutting all of these TV shows out and tell you how I am going to change my layout. So pretty much it looks nothing like it did on the computer because I decided to go a different direction. I found this January looks like this grid card in my stash. I believe this was from, probably last year, maybe. So I cut out the small photos of everything we've been watching, and I'm going to be adding those photos into the boxes. I did have journaling previously on this card that I was going to use, but it was kind of filler journaling, honestly. So I'm okay with just having the photos on here and no journaling. I've written extensively about those TV shows and my thoughts on them in my media journal, so it's okay that it's not in Project Life. So that is that card. And then when I saw that that card had a little square that was empty, I went searching in my stash for anything that I could possibly use and found these Vellum hearts from Week in the Life 2022. So I had every plan to do my Week in the Life album for 2022, but it didn't end up happening, and I have since decided that I am going to be doing my layouts on the computer in Photoshop and printing it out as a digital album as part of my 2022 photo yearbook. You can check out previous videos on my channel to see what that looks like, but essentially that is what my Week in the Life for 2022 will be included in. So I was just looking through my stash and I found these Vellum hearts, and I had already used the digital version of one of the 3x4 cards from last year's Week in the Life kit. So I figured, why not? Since the color scheme obviously went, and those were some of the colors that I pulled in to recolor this card, that it would work perfectly. So I just grabbed a few of those Vellum hearts and spread them around my layout. And then as I was looking through my Week in the Life stash, I came upon a whole bunch of chipboard embellishments from past Week in the Life kits. So I have no idea what year these are from, probably like 2017, I would imagine, just by like the size of the chipboard. These are very, very old. But they had some really fun sentiments that really worked with this spread. This one says, "Little things I loved from this week." Is that going to actually... All right, so that one said, "Little things I loved from this week," which works perfectly. And then this one said, "In the kitchen again," which was really cute because this is a picture of my daughter helping me cook dinner, which was really fun and kind of the first time that she delved so far into cooking. And it brought a little bit of orange to the spread. This card actually turned out a lot more orange. As you can see, the open hearts turned out a lot more orange than I had anticipated. It did not look that orange in Photoshop. My printer is calibrated a little bit differently in the colors than it should be. But I actually don't really love orange in scrapbook layouts, and I don't really have a lot in my stash. If you can hear my dog, she is barking because the kids have come home from school. So, but some of the Week in the Life things had orange in them. So like this card has some orange, some of the Vellum hearts had orange, and then I found some chipboard that had orange. So that worked out really well. So I just picked out some phrase chipboard to go on the hearts, and then I also picked out some taupe colored circle chipboard to kind of add as embellishments here and there. There's this camera that goes with my week date. the fork and spoon for this photo of our dinner that my daughter helped us make. And then this one, which is actually not an old chipboard. This says New Year's stuff, and I believe this is from last year's January Stories by the Month kit. So that is probably the only one that is not as old as the rest of the chipboard on this layout. But I really like how it came together, so I'm just going to start adhering things and getting this layout finished. All right, so now you're just going to see me adhere everything onto my spread. So I use my Tim Holtz tiny attacher to adhere my vellum hearts just because you can see adhesive through that vellum. And then I end up using a combination of my regular Tombow mono adhesive and some red line tape to add that chipboard down. So some of those pieces of chipboard are very old and very thick because back a few years ago, Allie did very thick chipboard. Now they're a little bit thinner and they don't actually have adhesive on the back. So it makes it easier to adhere them, weirdly. But these ones are super thick, so I end up tearing off a part of the background and then just using red line tape to add those onto my photos and my spread. I really, really love how this layout ended up turning out. I love when a spread comes together after you feel kind of hopeless about it, which is what I was feeling uh, before I found that January looks like this card. I felt like it was a little disjointed, and now I really feel good about it. So this was a hard week in real life, and um, sometimes it's hard to document hard weeks, but I did talk about why this was a hard week in that January card a little bit, but using the bright colors and the pretty embellishments that I've been hoarding for a year, it helps a little bit. I think maybe if you're a crafty person, you know that sometimes all it takes is getting your hands crafting and your mind in a creative place, and it really does help your mental well-being. So that's definitely what this week felt like for me and what this spread felt like for me. And I love that I get to share that with you. So the last thing that I'm going to do differently is I'm going to adhere those two 3x4 cards together with some washi tape, and then I'm just going to tuck that into the pockets. I don't worry about adhering them onto a separate 4x6 card. I just stick them in the pocket and hope that the card on the opposite side will do a good enough job. So I'm pretty much doing the same exact process for each one of those cards. And the last thing I'm going to do is add my week label sticker. I'm just doing that with some regular Tombow mono adhesive, and then I'm also going to be adding that little piece of chipboard that has the camera on top, and I'm going to call this spread done. So thank you so much for following along with me for week 4 in my 6x12 Project Life album, and I hope to see you soon. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day. See ya.